Hello everyone. In this session, the continuation of previous topics under Unit 1 Stress, Strain and Deformation in Solids. We are seeing the paper C8395 Strength of Materials for Mechanical Engineers. By continuing the previous session, now we are going to see about certain topics under which the first one is linear elasticity and elastic limit. So, before we are going to see about this topic, elasticity. Elasticity is nothing but even after removal of the applied force, the deformed object or the deformed shape of the object will regain its original position. Under such conditions, the term is known as elasticity, under which the limit, the maximum point, is known as elastic limit. So, when an external force acts on a body, the body tends to undergo some deformation. We already know that. If the external force is removed and the body comes back to its original shape and size, body is known as elastic body. This property, by virtue of which certain materials return back to their original position after the removal of the external force, is called elasticity. The body will regain its previous shape and size only when the deformation caused by the external force is within a certain limit or an elastic limit. Thus, there is a limiting value of force up to and within which the deformation completely disappears on the removal of the force. The value of stress corresponding to this limiting force is known as elastic limit of the material. If the external force is so large that the stress exceeds the elastic limit, the material loses to some extent its property of elasticity. If now the force is removed, the material will not return to its original shape and size. There will be a residual deformation in the material. Hooke's law. So, whenever we are discussing about the elasticity, Hooke's law came into the point. For elastic bodies, the ratio of stress to strain is constant and is known as Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity, which is denoted by the symbol capital letter E. In denotion, stress is directly proportional to strain. Sigma is proportional to strain, which is equal to known as multiplication of Young's modulus and the strain. Stress is equal to E multiplied by strain. So Young's modulus is nothing but the ratio between the stress and the strain in common. When it comes to tensile load, then Young's modulus will be tensile stress by tensile strain. Or when it comes to an compressive load, then Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity is equal to compressive stress by compressive strain. In denotion, capital letter E is equal to sigma by small letter e. Strain has no units as it is a ratio. So thus Young's modulus has same units as stress. The materials that maintain this ratio are said to obey Hooke's law, which states that within elastic limits, stress is proportional to the strain producing it. The elastic limit of a material is determined by plotting a tensile test diagram. Young's modulus is the stress required to cause a unit strain. Similarly, for elastic materials, the strain, which is a shear one, shear strain is found to be proportional to the applied shear stress within the elastic limit. So modulus of rigidity or shear modulus denoted by the symbol capital letter G is the ratio of shear stress to the shear strain. So tau is equal to G gamma. The ratio between volumetric stress and the volumetric strain is called bulk modulus of elasticity. Again, it can be denoted as capital letter K. So modulus, when we are discussing about modulus, bulk modulus, rigidity modulus, Young's modulus. The Young's modulus can be otherwise known as modulus of elasticity, and rigidity modulus is otherwise known as modulus of rigidity, and another one is bulk modulus. So these are all the elastic constant in common. And the next one is Poisson's ratio. The ratio of lateral strain to the longitudinal strain is a concept for given material when the material is stressed within the elastic limit. This ratio is called Poisson's ratio, and it is generally denoted by mu or 1 by m. Hence it can be represented in mathematically by mu is equal to lateral strain by longitudinal strain. So longitudinal strain. So when a body is subjected to an axial tensile load, there is an increase in the length of the body. So consider this is an object which is loaded with axial tensile load of P. So axial tensile in either end, opposite in direction, which means, right? At the same time, there is a decrease in other dimensions of the body at right angles to the line of action of applied load. So this is the line of action of applied load, and at right angles, so 90 degree, and at right angles there will be decrease in other dimensions, right? So this is a basic shape before the deformation, and after applying axial tensile load, the deformed object is obtained as this one. So the length is getting increased, but at right angles the width is getting decreased. The ratio of axial deformation to the original length of the body is known as longitudinal strain. The longitudinal strain also defined as the deformation of body per unit. Length in the direction of applied load. So L is equal to length of the body, P is tensile force which is given as a load, and del L is the increase in length. So as we can see that in this image, the length is getting increased. So del L is the increase in length of the body. So now we are getting the longitudinal strain as del L by L, which is nothing but increase in length by original length. And when it comes to the topic of lateral strain, the strain at right angles to the direction of applied load. So this image is nothing but the previous image. So when an object is applied with axial tensile load, the right angles. So what are all the things happened at the right angles of the applied tensile load? States that the lateral strain. So lateral strain is equal to del B by B, which is nothing but breadth. So change in breadth by original breadth, which means at lateral part the dimensions gets decreased. So decrease in breadth by original breadth, or decrease in diameter by original diameter if it is a cylindrical object or diametral object. So del L is increase in length, and in case of breadth and diameter, del B decrease in breadth, del D decrease in depth or diameter. So the stress strain relationship. So for structural steel, since many engineering applications determined by conducting laboratory tests on small specimens of the material, and most of the engineering applications is made of steel only. And so our first part for this stress strain relationship will be on structural steel. So one such common test is nothing but tension test, which can be done in universal testing machine, as we know that. So after performing tension or compression test and determining stress and strain at various magnitudes of load, we can obtain a diagram by plotting stress and strain. So plotting the graph between stress and strain, we will get the stress strain relationship. So for this, the strain is denoted in y-axis and x-axis, and the stress will be on y-axis. The stress strain diagram is of immense help in conveying information about mechanical properties and behavior of the material. So what are all the properties and behavior? So the initial behavior is portrayed by straight line. So OA, this point is nothing but A. So which is a straight line only, as because of proportional. It is a proportional area, which means so the stress will be directly proportional to strain. So if the stress changes, strain will be changes, depends on the applied stress. So it is represented as a straight line, and at the top of the line is nothing but proportionality limit. So beyond that point A, there will not be any proportionality, which means the stress and the strain will not be no longer directly proportional. Got it? Right. However, the material remains elastic even beyond the limit of proportionality, up to which B, the point B, up to point B, the material exists in elastic region, which means when we remove the applied force, the deformed object regains its original position. That's it. And C is nothing but upper yield point and D is nothing but lower yield point. So yield point is nothing but the maximum workability of the material, depends on this yield point. And ultimate point is nothing but after that point E, the material will definitely gets failure, will starts failure, and at point F the break point starts, which means the failure occurs. So this is an example for tensile test. So this is a specimen applied with the tensile load. So this is an extension meter which measures the elongation of the material. So which can be seen that in this image. So applied tensile load, if the material is ductile, then the necking will starts at the yield point. After the yield point, the necking propagates, and at a certain point, which is nothing but the breaking point F in the previous image, the material gets into two pieces. And for a brittle material, all of the sudden the failure occurs, which means the proportionality, we can get the up to proportionality limit. After that, there will not be any visually seen yield point or ultimate point. Directly we can able to see that the failure if the material is brittle in nature. So after conduction of tension test on steel, we can determine the following items. What are the items? Elastic modulus, proportional limit, yield stress, and then ultimate stress. So these are all the certain parameters we can able to obtain after the conduction of tension test in universal testing machine. So we had seen for structural steel. For other materials, what will be the stress strain diagram will be. So every material has its own strength characteristics. Unlike steel, other materials do not show clear point of yield stress. So but initial linear behavior is shown by all materials, which means up to the proportionality limit, all materials exhibit this linear property. So figure represents the stress strain behavior of some important materials. So these are all some of the engineering materials we are using in several applications. So similarly, stress is represented in y-axis and strain in x-axis. For concrete, the slope will be like this, and for aluminium, cast iron, high carbon steel. So these are all the examples of non-ferrous metals. Right. With this, I conclude this session, and at the next session, we will see about other parameters and a problem. Thank you.